some children have become very interested in creating things like jewelry or moving up a little bit further beyond just the normal sort of stringing activities that we might do. And so something that we designed for the children to be able to use was a space where there's some wire and some beads and some other kind of materials that are very interesting with the wire. The children are given real tools. These are real wire cutters, and it's actual wire that we chose that is somewhat malleable, but some of it still gives some good resistance, because the children can learn so much from experimenting with the different kinds of wire, and it's really opened up for them a whole new way to express what they were thinking about. A simple string and beads can only go so far, and so this gives them a whole lot more they can do, and actually we've gotten some very interesting sculptures that the children have created. It's a material that is so responsive to them and to what they want, and once they're given the ability to really experiment with it, they become very adept at manipulating it and using it to create what it is that they're thinking about. And sometimes it's very representational, and sometimes it's just something very beautiful that they're able to create to add aesthetics to their space, or to take home, or to give as a gift to somebody. And so for all those reasons, we really like to be able to give the children those materials that they can use to go a little bit deeper, a little bit further what they're thinking about. On our light table right now, we have collage. Sometimes the light table, I find myself sticking very simply to transparent manipulatives, because the Legos look amazing on the light table. It's a really fun place to do that. Or some of the color mixing paddles are really awesome on the light table. The light table offers so many other sort of ways to get to experiment with different media, as well as light and shadow all at the same time. And so doing things like collage on laminate, or giving the children permanent markers to use on the laminate, helps them it gives another layer to the media that they're already using. When you add light to their artwork, they can see things with more detail. They can it gives a whole other layer of discovery, and it's really exciting for them, and it's always very intriguing for them when they work on a light table. Even something like painting on regular paper on the light table is different than painting with it on the table. And then that, combined with the projector, offers some really interesting ways for the children to take their work from the light table to the projector and see what happens when you do that. It's really exciting, and invites some really interesting inquiry around that, around light, around shadow, around art, around color, around adhesives, and how they all interact with light, and how they can get a little bit more in depth with it. We also have all of our standard art materials, just like you'd have in the classroom, but the way that we've chosen to display it is in a really aesthetically pleasing way. Again, the children are given tools that perhaps they are meant more for adults, some acrylic paints, some oil pastels, those kinds of things, because the children really are capable of using all these graphic arts materials in ways to express themselves and to support their inquiry process. And so you can see the way that we've chosen to display this right now is with the color palette, and since that's always a standard sort of thing that we have in the classroom, we leave that displayed like that pretty much all year long, whereas some other things might change, or perhaps some of the featured materials might change, but this is pretty much of a staple of the studio. That the children are given the paints in these pumps so that they can take the ownership to mix their own colors, and they're given a wide selection of brushes so that they can choose whatever kind of brush they want for what they're creating at that moment. I think so often we think about, from an adult perspective, the materials that we're putting out, where sometimes if we can just take that perspective and switch it just a little bit to think about the children who are going to be using it, and in what ways can we make this the most open-ended and the most appropriate for what their current work is. And so if the children are trying to represent something, perhaps blue paint isn't what they need, but perhaps light blue or light green is what they need. And when they're given time to experiment with the mixing of the colors, they can find ways to create the colors that they really need at that moment.